Today, Thursday, the 12th of December 2024, we have some hand-picked match predictions to share with you, which will be backed up by some stats and analytics to help you make your picks in this list to boost your winning by a greater percent. And to those of you who want to have access to our hand-picked events, which we share to members only, such as our top 10 or top 15 list game predictions based on 1.5 and 2.5 goal match picks, as well as corner kick events with huge odds to take your winning to the next level, then of course you want to make sure to join the level 2 pro plan to start to have access to all of these features. So without wasting time, to those of you who want to join, the link is below this video. You can click to become a member of level 2 pro plan to start to have benefit for all of these features. So without wasting time, I'm going to begin with the first match pick of today's list. Looking at the first event here, we are looking at Vietnam in the Women Cup, a match between Hanoi women against Sonla women. Looking at the performance of the home based on recent event they have proved that they are good in terms of recent performance, scoring 4 to 3 goals per each event. The opponent, on the other hand, Sonla, proved to be very conceding based on recent event they have had. The defensive line is very weak. And looking at the most recent event they have had, this same here, they have had 3 events, this same 2024, and you can see that Noah women has always lead, and there have always been the possibility of 1.5 and 2.5 goals based on the recent 3 games they have had this same here. This particular event stands since it is a cup. Comparing the stand performance of this on the table, you're going to see that still the home team, Hanwha women, is still very offensive. They've had just 1 game, 3 goals scored, and the offensive line is still very good. And looking at everything in place, you still want to look at 2 major picks in this event in full time. For this particular event, the home team still have a very high performance, just like before the last head-to-head, which they have met this same year. The home has always lead with a difference of about 2 to 3 goals. This time, the form of the home is still very great, and we still want to therefore look at the home to lead. But of course, goals probability is the most secure option. So want to look at 1.5 goal as one of the major pick in full time, as well as the possibility of 2.5 goals or 2 goals over. Looking at the next, we look at Asia in the championship, a match between Indonesia against Laos. In this event, of course, the performance of the home have proved to be very good in terms of the recent 2 games they've had, especially in the WC, which is the World Championship Women. And you can also see, as you can see here, ACH. And looking at this, actually, the performance of the home as compared to that of the away, based on recent event they've had, you're going to see that the away is very conceding. The defensive line is very weak, and the recent head-to-head which they have had is very far away long, so we are not going to consider that. And looking at the stand performance of Indonesia against Laos, looking at the stands, you're going to see that Indonesia still proved to be on the better stand. And here, its opponent is actually very weak in defense, and looking at everything in place, we still want to look at 2 major picks in this Asia Championship match prediction. So want to look at 2 major picks in full time. For this particular event, the performance of the home Indonesia is still very good in terms of recent gameplay they have had. And since the fact that the home proved to be of better performance in terms of recent gameplay, and the away still have a weak defense, of course, we are still looking at the home to lead as one of the major picks, as well as the possibility of at least 1.5 goal, 2 goals over to occur in this match in full time. Looking at the next, we look at Europe in the Conference League, a match between FC Astana against Chelsea. The performance of Astana, based on recent events they've had, have proved that they do score at least between 1 to 2 goals per each event, and they win 5 goals. They've had games in the CL, that is the Conference League, and also in the Kazakhstan League Cup itself, and the performance have proved that they do score. But of course, Chelsea, on the other hand, is from the Premier League, and the offensive line is very great comparing to that of a lower league, as you can see here in this lower league, which is Kazakhstan. Comparing the stands based on recent game played by performance, the away Chelsea have proved to be a better stand, and based on the way they tend to lead this table, sitting on the second place, they've had just 2 events scoring up to 6 goals and 1 goal concede. That's a very high defense and offense comparing to that of the home, which of course the proof that the offensive line is not very great. And looking at everything in place, we want to look at 2 major picks here in full time. For this particular event, of course, the away team Chelsea is from the Premier League. They are from the higher league as compared to that of the home, which is from a lower league. The fact that the away team Chelsea have proved to be very great in terms of recent performance they have had in the Premier League, of course, This proves that even based on this recent game played for this tournament, they still have a very great offense. They have brought this form here, and the fact that they are coming to meet with a team of lower league, of course, is going to take that advantage to lead in full time. We also want to look at the probability of the fact that with the high offensive rate of Chelsea, they'll score at least over 1 or 2 goals in this event in full time, and therefore goals come in. The possibility of at least 1.5 goals to occur in full time or 2 goals over. So look at 3 major picks here. 1, the way Chelsea to lead. 2, 1.5 goal in full time. 3, 2.5 goals to occur in this match in full time. Our major pick for this particular event. Looking at the next, we'll look in the Europa League. That is a match between Malmo against Galatasaray. In this event, of course, Malmo have proved to be a good team in terms of recent gameplay they've had. Gala, on the other hand, is of a very high offensive team, even though they do concede as much as well. Comparing the stands of these two in terms of recent performance based on comparison of this round of tournament 6, of course, you're going to see that Gala, based on the gameplay they have had, based on home and away, looking at the home, of course, Malmo, based on recent events they've had, prove that they sit right here on the 34th position. You can see the defensive line is very weak as compared to the offensive line of the opponent, Gala. And looking at Gala, on the other hand, let's see at Gala, you're going to see that based on the away performance, of course, they are better. And looking at the overall in terms of performance based on the stands, you're going to see that Gala proved to be a good stand based on overall. And looking here, Gala, of course, is a good offensive team comparing to that of its opponent. On the other hand, that proved that the defensive line is not that very great. And looking here at everything in place, we want to look at 2 major picks in full time. For this particular event, of course, both of the 2 sides want to impress. And the fact that the impression rate will be high, this is a comparison of this tournament. They'll want to see how they secure points, resulting to more shots on and off target, and as a result, goal probability is the most secure option. At least 1.5 goal in full time is our major pick for this particular event. Looking at the next here, we look, of course, a match between Bayern Munich against Juventus in the Europe Champions League women. That is Bayern Munich women against Juventus women. Looking at this, looking at the recent performance play of this, the home team proved to be a very good offensive team, especially in the Bundesliga of women, and as well as in the Champions League women based on recent game play. The opponent, Juventus, on the other hand, is also a good offensive team. And looking at the recent game they have had based on this same here, of course, the most recent, Bayern played at the way in lead by 2-0. This time it is coming home. And looking at the stands, this is the 5th round of this tournament. Comparing the form in terms of recent gameplay they have had by the stand performance, of course, Bayern, which is the home, proved here to be on the better stand. And looking at the home in terms of home gameplay by the home team, Bayern, we're going to say that they sit here and leading this particular table looking at its performance. So why this low? Of course, we're going to see that Bayern sits on the first place, and they've had just 2 events recently, scoring up to 8 goals and having all the 2 lead, conceding 2. This is a very great offense and also a very great defense. But its opponent, on the other hand, proved that the offense and the defensive line is not as great as compared to that of Bayern. You can see that the defensive line of the opponent is not that very great, and the offensive line is also not that very great. And looking here at everything in place, we want to look at 2 major picks in full time. Looking at this particular event, of course, the home team, Bayern Munich, have proved that they are still very offensive based on recent event they have had. And since the last head-to-head, recently they meet, Bayern played the way, lead by 2-0. This time, it still have a great form, and we still want to look at it to still lead in full time as one of the major picks. And we still want to look at least the possibility of 1.5 goal to occur in full time. Looking at the next, we look at still the Europe Champions League. This time, Valerenga women against Arsenal women. And looking here, the performance of the home have proved that they do score at least a goal per match. But that of the opponent, on the other hand, is also a very good offensive team. Looking at the most recent game they just had, this same here, Arsenal played at home and they lead by 4-1 against Valerenga. This time, of course, Arsenal is going away. And looking at the recent performance of it, based on the away game performance, you're going to see that they sit here in the 2nd place, having 2 games played with a single lead. 6 goals scored, 5 conceded. The offense is great, but the defense is not that very tight. And looking at Valerenga, on the other hand, their defense is not very tight, and the offense is also not very strong. And looking here at everything in place, we want to look at 2 major picks in full time. For this particular event, of course, Barcelona, that is Arsenal, sits on a better stand, and the offense is still good, and that of the home as well is having an offensive line which is not very great but average, and the defense is not tight. And since the defense of the away is not very tight, both of the two sides will take advantage of each other. And since the defensive line of both sides are not tough, we are looking at goals probability, at least 1.5 going full time or 2 goals over, as well as the possibility of 2.5 goal to occur in this match in full time are our major pick. The next is going to be still in the Europe League, but this time Rangers against Tottenham. That is Rangers Tottenham. Rangers' performance in the Premiership have proved to be very offensive recently, scoring 3 to 6 goals. The opponent, Tottenham, on the other hand, is also a good offensive team in the Premier League. And of course, the recent head-to-head which they had, it was very far way back. So we are not going to use that. But of course, the stance performance based on the recent gameplay of these two in terms of the home and away gameplay, Rangers at home sit right here on the 21 position. Offense is good, defense is not good. That of its opponent, on the other hand, based on gameplay by that is both the home and away, you're going to see Tottenham also prove to be good in offense, but the defense not very tight. And looking here at everything in place, we'll look at two major picks in full time. For this particular event, the defense of both sides are not very tight. The offense is good, and therefore they will take advantage of each other by high shoot on and off target, resulting to the possibility of goals to occur here, at least 1.5 or 2.5 goals, since the defensive line is not very tight and the offensive line is great. So 1.5 or 2.5 goals is what we want to look at for this event in full time. The next is in the Europe League, this time Real Sociedad against Dynamo Kyiv. Real Sociedad in the La Liga have proved to be a good offensive team, but that of its opponent as well, on the other hand, is also good. But looking at the recent stance performance in terms of recent event they have had, we're going to see that the performance of the home base at home proved to be better as compared to that of its opponent, which have had 3 goals and 2 conceded for 2 games played. But that of its opponent, based on the away performance, Dynamo the Kyiv, proved that they sit right here at the bottom area with the defense line, which is not great. And looking here at everything in place, we want to look at 2 major picks in full time. For this event, the offensive line of the home is better as compared to the offensive of the away. And the defensive line of the away is also very weak. So we want to look at the home to take advantage of that, to either lead in full time or to give it a double chance. These are our major pick for this event. Looking at the next, we looked here in the Europe Champions League women, Hammarby women against Barcelona women. This event, Hammarby proved to be very conceding based on recent event they have had, while its opponent, on the other hand, is a very high offensive team. And looking at the recent head-to-head, which they made the same here, the home, that is Barcelona, which is the away team, now lead by 9-0 when it played at home. This time it is going away, and the form is still good in terms of stand. And comparing these two, the away team, Barcelona, of course, still proved to be on a better stand, comparing to that of the home, which of course the defense is still very leaking, that is very weak defense. And looking at everything in place, we still want to look at 2 major picks here in full time. For this particular event, of course, the performance of the away is still good and that of the home defense is poor. And we want to look at the away to take advantage of this. Since the first head-to-head lead by 9-0, while Barcelona lead, they still have a good form. We still want to look at Barcelona to lead as one of the major pick, as well as 1.5 or 2 goals over. To those of you who want to have access to our hand-pick event, we will share to members only in top of our top 10. That is in terms of our top 10 and top 15 list of game predictions, as well as corner kick event with huge odds to take your winning to the next level. Then of course you want to make sure to join the level 2 pro plan. The link is below this video. You want to join and start to take advantage of these features to take your winning to the next level. The link is below this video. So good luck and see you again in the next upload, and bye bye for now.